Welcome to Crime Canvas, where we examine the darkest corners of human nature and the choices that lead us there. If this is your first time here, please subscribe and join us as we explore stories that challenge everything we think we know about trust, love, and consequences. December 15th, 2022. The Grand Ballroom of the Ritz-Carlton in Atlanta, Georgia. Golden lights cascade from crystal chandeliers, illuminating 500 guests dressed in their finest. The air is heavy with jasmine and roses. Indian music blends with modern rhythms, creating an atmosphere of pure celebration. This is more than a wedding. This is a spectacle. At the center stands Maya Patel, 25 years old, radiant in her crimson and gold lehenga. The intricate embroidery catches every flicker of light. Her dark eyes are lined perfectly, her hands decorated with elaborate henna. She is the picture of traditional beauty, cultural pride, and happiness. Beside her stands Robert Mitchell, 28, tall and handsome in his cream sherwani. His green eyes shine with genuine love as he gazes at his new wife. He has no idea that in less than 12 hours, this fairy tale will become a nightmare that destroys 3 families and ends in murder. This is the story of what happens when deception meets desperation, when lies build upon lies until the weight becomes unbearable, and when betrayal cuts so deep that something fundamental breaks in the human soul. Maya Patel was born in Atlanta to wealthy parents who represented the American dream perfectly realized. Her father owned multiple software companies. Her mother was a respected surgeon. Maya herself held an MBA from Duke University. On paper, she was everything anyone could want. Educated, beautiful, from an excellent family, financially independent. But behind her charm lived a calculating mind that viewed relationships as transactions and people as resources to be used. From an early age, Maya learned that her beauty and intelligence could open doors, and she became skilled at using both. When she met Robert Mitchell at a Manhattan charity event 8 months earlier, she recognized opportunity immediately. Robert worked for Morgan Stanley, came from old money in Boston, and had been raised with values of honor and integrity. He was, in Maya's assessment, the perfect target. Their courtship seemed like a romance novel. Robert fell completely in love with what he thought was Maya's genuine warmth, her fascinating cultural background, her sharp mind. She taught him Hindi phrases, introduced him to her family traditions, spoke passionately about building a future together. Every moment was carefully crafted, every gesture calculated. Robert never suspected that he was being played from the very first conversation. What Maya kept hidden was a secret that would shatter everything. She was 4 months pregnant, and the father was not the man standing beside her at the altar. Dr. Ryan Desai stood at the back of the reception, champagne untouched, watching the woman he had been sleeping with for 2 years marry another man. At 30, Ryan was handsome, successful, and married to his college sweetheart Sophia with 2 young children. To everyone who knew him, he was the perfect family man. A respected cardiologist with a beautiful wife and bright future. But for 2 years, Ryan had been living a double life. The affair started at a medical conference where Maya represented her company's healthcare division. Professional conversations became intimate dinners. Intimate dinners became stolen hotel rooms. They were careful. They used separate phones. They never posted on social media. They built a relationship in the shadows, sustained by lies and deleted text messages. 2 weeks before Maya's engagement party, everything changed. She called Ryan crying, saying she was pregnant. The timing left no doubt. The baby was his. Ryan begged her to leave Robert, to start fresh with him. He even offered to leave his family. But Maya refused coldly. "Are you insane?" she said, her tears drying instantly. "Robert has money, connections, a future. You're a married doctor with kids and debt. This baby is going to be a Mitchell, and that's final." In that moment, Ryan realized he had never really known Maya at all. The passionate woman he thought he loved was actually cold, calculating, and had seen him as nothing more than entertainment. In the weeks before the wedding, Ryan sent increasingly desperate messages. The weight of lying to his wife, combined with knowing his child would be raised by another man, was destroying him. But Maya ignored every message. She had made her choice, and nothing would change it. Robert had started noticing changes. Maya, usually open and affectionate, became secretive. She would step away for phone calls, claiming they were work-related, but her voice would drop to whispers. When he asked, she would deflect with kisses and smiles. She had gained weight recently, which she attributed to stress eating. But something about her body seemed different. Her emotions had become unpredictable. She would cry during movies, snap at wedding vendors, have mood swings that seemed out of character. Robert tried to push away his doubts. He loved Maya deeply. They seemed perfect together. He had introduced her to his parents, who had flown in from Boston. He had already imagined their children, their future, the life they would build. But the feeling that something was wrong would not leave him. The night before the wedding, Robert lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow he would marry the woman he loved more than anything in the world. So why did he feel like he was making a terrible mistake? He had no idea that his instincts were trying to warn him. No idea that in 24 hours, his entire world would collapse. No idea that the woman sleeping beside him was carrying another man's child and planning to deceive him for the rest of his life. The ceremony was magnificent. Local news crews covered what was being called the wedding of the year. A successful Boston banker marrying into one of Atlanta's most prominent Indian American families. The fusion of traditions created something extraordinary. String quartets played melodies that blended Western classical music with traditional ragas. But beneath the celebration, tension simmered just below the surface. Maya's smile never wavered, but those who knew her well could see the strain around her eyes, the slight tremor in her hands. She was running out of time. Every day her pregnancy became more obvious. Every outfit had to be carefully chosen. Every movement calculated. From the back of the room, Dr. Ryan Desai watched with a face like stone. Every moment felt like a knife in his chest. The woman carrying his child was pledging her life to another man, and there was nothing he could do about it. Rajesh Patel, Maya's father and successful tech entrepreneur, beamed with pride. This marriage to Boston aristocracy felt like the ultimate validation of his success in America. He had no idea his daughter's deception threatened to bring scandal upon the family name he had worked decades to build. As midnight approached, Maya's anxiety reached its peak. She excused herself to the restroom, stared at herself in the mirror, and prepared for the performance of her life. Tonight, she would seduce Robert, then claim their child was conceived on their wedding night. She had researched premature births, prepared stories about complications, even found a doctor willing to adjust medical records. Everything was planned. Everything was ready. What could possibly go wrong? The presidential suite at the St. Regis Hotel overlooked the Atlanta skyline, filled with candles, champagne, and white roses. Outside, a winter storm was beginning, weather reports calling for significant snowfall, unusual for Georgia. Robert carried Maya over the threshold, both laughing. "I can't believe you're finally my wife," he said softly, his hands framing her face. "I love you so much, Maya." Maya's plan was simple. Seduce him quickly, then claim later that their child was conceived tonight. But as they began undressing, Robert's analytical mind, sharpened by years at Morgan Stanley, noticed things that didn't align with his expectations. His hands traced her body, pausing at changes that seemed unusual. "Maya," he said softly, pulling back. "Have you been pregnant before?" Panic rose in her throat. "What? No, of course not. Why would you ask that?" "Your body. There are certain changes, signs that suggest pregnancy. Current pregnancy. I've gained weight from wedding stress," she said, her voice becoming strained. All women's bodies are different. But Robert was cataloging inconsistencies now, comparing what he observed with his knowledge. "These physical changes are consistent with pregnancy. You're currently pregnant, aren't you?" "You're being ridiculous," Maya snapped desperately. "Are you seriously going to ruin our wedding night with crazy accusations?" The romantic softness in Robert's eyes was replaced by something harder, more analytical. Outside, the storm intensified. Lights flickered as wind howled around the building. That's when Maya's phone rang. Dr. R. Desai flashed on the screen. Who is Dr. R. Desai? Robert asked quietly, his voice carrying a dangerous edge. Nobody, just someone from work. But the phone rang again immediately. Robert reached for it before she could stop him. Hello, Robert said, his eyes never leaving Maya's face. Maya, thank God. We need to talk. You can't go through with this. Robert deserves to know the truth about the baby. About us. Blood drained from Maya's face as Robert's expression transformed from confusion to horror. Who is this? Robert demanded. I'm Dr. Ryan Desai, and I'm the father of the baby Maya is carrying. The baby she's trying to convince you is yours. Robert staggered backward, the phone slipping from his hand. How long? Maya reached for him, but he held up a hand to stop her. He picked up the phone again. How long? He repeated. 2 years. I'm married with children, and I've been having an affair with Maya for 2 years. When she found out she was pregnant, she chose you instead of me because of your money. Robert slowly lowered the phone. His voice came out as barely a whisper. 2 years. Our entire relationship has been a lie. Maya's survival instincts kicked in immediately. Robert, please listen. Ryan forced himself on me. I was scared to tell you. The phone calls, the secrecy, Robert said. This wasn't force, Maya. This was an affair. Okay, yes, I had a relationship with him, but it was over before I met you. He's lying because he's jealous. Then you won't mind taking a pregnancy test right now. 20 minutes later, they stared at unmistakably positive results showing 4 months of pregnancy. With her final lie exposed, Maya dropped the innocent act completely. The sweet, traditional girl vanished, replaced by someone Robert didn't recognize. So what? She said defiantly. Yes, I'm pregnant. Yes, it's Ryan's baby. But you're the one with money, Robert. You should be grateful I chose you. Grateful. Robert's voice cracked. You lied about everything. Our entire relationship has been a fraud. Don't be so dramatic. Lots of men raise children that aren't theirs. You would have been a good father and never known the difference. I would have been living a lie forever. What you don't know can't hurt you, she shrugged. Marriage is a business transaction, and I was offering you a good deal. Robert felt something fundamental break inside him as he realized the woman he loved had never existed. Every moment of joy had been carefully manufactured by someone who saw him as nothing more than a means to an end. Then his phone buzzed with a banking alert. With trembling fingers, he opened the notification. $50,000 transferred from their joint account to Ryan Desai just 3 days ago. What is this? He whispered, showing Maya the screen. Maya's face went pale, but she lifted her chin. Ryan needed money. I was helping a friend. A friend. Robert scrolled through more transactions. Maya, you've been transferring money to him for months. Tens of thousands of dollars. Money I earned. Money I trusted you with for our future together. The financial betrayal cut even deeper than the emotional one. Robert had worked 16-hour days for years, building his reputation, saving every penny for their life together. He had given Maya access to his accounts because he trusted her completely. You don't understand, Maya said, her voice losing its defiant edge as she saw the look growing in Robert's eyes. Ryan was threatening to tell you everything if I didn't help him. I was protecting us. Our marriage. Robert laughed, but there was no humor in it. What marriage? You mean your elaborate con? You've been stealing from me to pay your married boyfriend while carrying his baby and planning to trick me into raising it. The full scope of his humiliation was becoming clear. He thought about his colleagues at work, his parents who had flown in from Boston, the hundreds of wedding guests. His pride, his sense of honor, everything that made him who he was had been destroyed. When this gets out, he said quietly, my career is finished. No one will ever trust me again. If I can't even see through my own wife's lies, how can I be trusted with anything? Robert, please. Maya reached for him, but he jerked away from her touch. We can fix this. I'll pay back the money. With what? Robert's voice was rising now. You don't have any money. You've never had any money. Everything you are has been built on lies and theft. The storm outside had reached its peak, wind howling against the windows. The lights flickered again, casting strange shadows across the suite that had been meant for romance, but had become something else entirely. You want to know the worst part? Robert continued, his voice becoming dangerously quiet. I actually loved you. I would have done anything for you. And all along, you were just using me. That's not true, Maya protested weakly. I did care about you, Robert. In my own way. Your own way. The words came out as a roar. Your own way was to lie to me every single day, steal my money, carry another man's baby, and plan to deceive me for the rest of my life. Robert grabbed Maya by the shoulders. Tell me the truth. For once in your life, tell me the truth. Did you ever love me? Even for a moment? Maya looked into his eyes, saw the desperate hope still lingering there despite everything, and made the final fatal mistake of her life. She laughed. It wasn't a bitter laugh or a sad laugh. It was a genuine, amused laugh, as if the question itself was absurd. Love you? She said, shaking her head. Robert, you're such a fool. You really think this was about love? You were a meal ticket, a way up, and you fell for it completely. Something inside Robert snapped. What happened next would be debated in courtrooms, analyzed by psychologists, and discussed in ethics classes for years to come. In a moment of complete psychological collapse, Robert attacked Maya with a violence that seemed impossible from the gentleman he had always been. The fight was brutal and one-sided. Maya fought back desperately, but Robert was bigger, stronger, and driven by a rage that seemed to give him inhuman strength. They crashed around the suite, destroying everything. Blood stained the white silk and rose petals. When it was over, when Maya's body lay still on the marble floor of their honeymoon suite, Robert stood over her, breathing heavily. The rage that had consumed him was already fading, replaced by growing horror at what he had done. Oh God! He whispered, sinking to his knees beside her. Maya, wake up! But there was no waking up from this. The woman who had deceived him was dead by his own hands. Panic set in as Robert realized his situation. He was from Boston, had just murdered his Atlanta wife on their wedding night. No jury would believe his story about deception and betrayal. They would see only a privileged man who had killed his beautiful young wife. With shaking hands, Robert tried to stage the scene to look like an accident. He moved Maya's body to the bathroom, positioned her near the marble tub as if she had slipped and fallen. He cleaned the blood from the living room, straightened the furniture. 20 minutes later, he called 911, his voice breaking. Please help me. My wife. I think she's dead. I found her in the bathroom. I think she slipped. Please hurry. Outside, the storm continued. And somewhere in Atlanta, Dr. Ryan Desai sat in his car, staring at his phone, waiting for a call that would never come, unaware that his affair had just cost 3 lives. Maya's, Robert's, and the unborn child they had created together. Detective Lisa Martinez had seen enough staged crime scenes in her 15 years with the Atlanta Police Department to recognize one immediately. When she arrived at the St. Regis at 3:47 a.m., she knew within minutes that Robert's story didn't make sense. The bathroom showed signs of recent cleaning, too recent and too thorough. There were drops of blood in the living room that someone had tried to clean but missed. Hotel security footage showed Robert pacing in the hallway, clearly agitated. By 1:30 a.m., guests reported sounds of a violent argument through the walls. The medical examiner's findings made Robert's story impossible. Dr. Sarah Chun identified the cause of death as manual strangulation, not trauma from a fall. Someone held her throat and squeezed until she died, Dr. Chun explained. This requires sustained intent and effort. The breakthrough came when Dr. Ryan Desai walked into the police station voluntarily, his face exhausted, hands shaking. I need to tell you about Maya Patel, he said, about the baby she was carrying, about why someone might have wanted to hurt her. Ryan's testimony painted a devastating picture. He admitted to the 2-year affair, to being the father of Maya's unborn child, to the financial arrangements where Maya had been stealing money from Robert to pay him. I called her that night, Ryan told Detective Martinez, tears streaming down his face. I heard Robert answer the phone, and I told him everything. I never thought he would hurt her. When confronted with the evidence, Robert's carefully constructed story fell apart. In the interrogation room, his composure finally cracked. She destroyed everything, he whispered. Everything I worked for, everything I believed in. She made me love her, and it was all a lie. So you killed her for it, Martinez said. I didn't mean to, Robert said, looking up with eyes full of pain. I just wanted her to tell me the truth, but she laughed. She called me a fool and laughed at how easily she had manipulated me. The trial of Robert Mitchell began 6 months later, drawing international media attention. Prosecutors painted Robert as a privileged man who murdered his wife in a rage. Defense attorneys argued he was the victim of an elaborate con that would have destroyed anyone. The jury deliberated for 3 days before returning a verdict of second-degree murder. Judge Patricia Williams sentenced Robert to 25 years to life, noting that while his emotional devastation was understandable, violence is never an acceptable response to betrayal, no matter how profound. Robert showed no emotion as the sentence was read, his parents weeping silently in the gallery. The successful banker was led away in handcuffs, his life effectively over at 28 years old. The Mitchell family was destroyed by the scandal. Robert's father suffered a heart attack during the trial. His mother became a recluse, unable to face friends. The family's reputation, built over generations, was permanently damaged. The Patel family faced their own devastation. Rajesh Patel's tech empire crumbled as business partners distanced themselves. Maya's mother Priya attempted suicide twice before eventually moving to India. The family that had once been pillars of their community became isolated overnight. Dr. Ryan Desai suffered perhaps the most complex guilt. His testimony helped convict Robert, but he understood that his phone call that night had been the catalyst for violence. His marriage ended within months. He lost his medical practice, his children, and eventually relocated to California under a different name. I destroyed 4 lives that night, Ryan told a reporter in his only interview. Maya's, Robert's, my wife's, and my own. All because I couldn't keep my marriage vows. The case sparked worldwide discussions about manipulation in relationships and the consequences of deception. Support groups formed for people who had been victims of romantic fraud. Others criticized what they saw as excuses for violence. Mental health professionals studied the case extensively, identifying how extreme deception can push even non-violent individuals toward violence. The Robert Mitchell case became required reading in psychology programs. 5 years after the murder, vigils are held annually. One for Maya as a victim of violence, another as a warning about the deadly potential of comprehensive deception. Both vigils draw crowds. Both serve important purposes. Both reflect the complicated legacy of a wedding night that ended in tragedy. The lesson here is not simple and it's not comfortable. Maya Patel made terrible choices. She lied, manipulated, and stole from someone who trusted her completely. But those choices, as reprehensible as they were, did not warrant her death. Nothing warrants taking another person's life. Robert Mitchell was driven to a breaking point by betrayal so comprehensive it shattered his entire sense of reality. But in that moment when he chose violence, he became something worse than the person who had deceived him. He became a killer. And Dr. Ryan Desai, who thought he could compartmentalize his life, who believed his affair wouldn't hurt anyone, learned the devastating truth that our choices create consequences we can never fully predict or control. This is Crime Canvas, where we explore the darkest aspects of human nature not to judge, but to understand. If this story has affected you, if it's made you think about trust, deception, or the consequences of our choices, please subscribe to our channel. Share this story. Talk about it. Because the only way we learn from tragedy is by examining it honestly, no matter how uncomfortable that examination might be. The empty spaces left by destroyed lives serve as permanent reminders that some betrayals can shatter human beings in ways that forever change everyone involved. But they also remind us that in our darkest moments, when we feel most justified in our rage, we still have a choice. And that choice defines who we truly are. Thank you for watching Crime Canvas.